Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today, we're talking our king. That's right, this is the third part in this series where I'm deep diving this book. In case you missed the other two, definitely go back and watch them. If you're reading along with me, I'm actually on chapter 17, page 223. So I got really heated last time because Meghan was just being awful to the queen. Her response when the queen tried to help her was, "I've got Harry." Basically, I don't need any of you people. Just awful, just not giving a crap. Everything we know, right? So we're going to pick up with that. It is frustrating. Again, I've said it before. This writer is really good. A lot of you are really enjoying his writing, as am I. He definitely is more interested in Charles's point of view throughout this. So while the other ones were juicy in some of the details, he goes more from Charles's point of view. So it's interesting because because that hasn't really been done in the other books we've read. So I'm enjoying the heck out of it and I'm ready to dive back in. So let's jump right back in. Okay, so this part he actually goes into William and how William was completely infuriated with Hank and Skank, if you will. So William was completely infuriated by the same thing that we all were. It's something that I bring up quite a bit. My turning point with these two. I already wasn't sure, but when I saw them in South Africa in the middle of some real struggles, they're talking about their struggles and trying to make it about them, where they could have been doing good. It gets me heated to even talk about. I've talked about it at length in many videos, but again, it's Robert Jobson that wrote this. So he goes into that William was just infuriated and further worried about his father. And it was the many betrayals that Harry continued to do that William was unable to forgive. It was in that Bradby's interview with ITV. It was the South Africa one where nobody's asking about me. That's my Meghan impression of that. Ugh, disgusting. Anyway, Harry actually opens up about, it was his first time speaking on the strained relationship with William. And it came after reports of tensions between the brothers, but then Harry was the one to actually speak up on this because that's what he does. He knows that the working royals will not speak up on matters such as this, or they won't rebut things. But of course, that's what Harry and Meghan bank on. That's how they make their big bucks, right? Writing down every grievance ever. But it was the strain that, of course, it led to the decision to have separate offices as well as split their charitable foundation. Now that the quote Fab Four breakup was complete, it was actually William who was so deeply disappointed that Harry had broken that bond of trust between them. Quote, to say he felt deeply let down would be an understatement. He wasn't sure if he could ever fully trust his brother again. That was a loss to him, end quote, said one member of his circle. And I'm thinking again, flash forward in time, God, reading Spare, that had to be just unbelievable. All trust is broken, like private conversations revealed. I don't believe anything Harry said in that book, but I'm saying like his side or his version of private conversations completely revealed. It had to be just completely heartbreaking for William. Again, this is where Maggie decided to make it about her always and talked about the difficulties of living under the intense media scrutiny. Remember, while talking to the media that they had invited, they were talking about the difficulties of it. It's just, again, worldwide privacy tour, right? Her complaint here, you ask? She thought it would be fair. She said it's hard to reconcile how unfair it is, talking about the reporting on her. And again, I say, what have you two been doing? Do you think it's fair to go to Oprah with all these provable lies about people you know won't, counter such tales and, cry racism? Is that your version of fair? And again, she talks about it's not the point of life to survive. You have to thrive. Again, standing feet away from poverty in South Africa and people who have truly struggled daily. And yeah, again, they're talking about how they are struggling and they need to thrive. It was just disgusting. Disgusting. I get disgusted even talking about it. Let's move on. So Brad B asked how Meghan was coping, and that's where she said, "Thank you for asking. Not many people have asked if I'm okay." Ugh. Disgusting. Those two, they deserve each other. Rotten hell. So the Sussexes tour of South Africa, it had gone from September to early October. Into September to early October 2019. It had been going smoothly. The first part of the tour seemed to have gone well, but then, of course, they blew it all up with this me all at the end. Okay, so then things get interesting because Jobson brings up something I did not realize. Now, funny side note, this is where they met the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu in Cape Town. Funny side note, I too have also met the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu and his lovely wife. I got to meet them many, many years ago, but they were lovely and could not have been nicer. Very down to earth, very easy to talk to. I was honored to meet them. I did not cry and talk about how unfair things have been for myself when I met them, unlike Harry and Meghan. Anyway, okay. Okay, so they had met with them, and there's those photos where they posed with Archie and with, of course, again, Archbishop Tutu in Cape Town. And they point out that ironically later they would use one of these photos in a trailer for that Netflix docuseries to try to highlight paparazzi intrusion, despite the fact that it was taken from an accredited position arranged by them and policed by their press secretary, the secretary was standing next to them, standing next to the three British media outlets picked to report on that moment outside Archbishop Tutu's private residence. So, interesting. Not at all surprising, of course. It's just what they do. Anything to make us try to feel sorry for them. I don't. So then it was April 2021. It was reported in the Times that William had broken off his decades-long friendship with that same ITN news anchor. Of course, we know Brad B. Because of the relationship he had with Harry and Meghan and spinning that bullcrap. I don't blame William at all. William, the newspaper reported, was left frustrated that the former royal correspondent and host of News at 10 on ITV appeared to have sided with his brother and sister-in-law in the break from the royal household. Again, flash forward to now when we've seen Brad B do another interview with Harry. He didn't call him out. He didn't ask super thoughtful questions or get him to elaborate on these wild tales that they're spinning. So no, I don't blame William for breaking it off at all. But then Jobson goes into the official announcement of the household split, that we had talked about, the No More Royal Foundation that the Fab Four had originally been trying to work on. But again, how could you work with Harry and Meghan? I don't fault William and Catherine at all. Now, an interesting story came up here that Jobson points out, which is around the same time Harry and Meghan had rejected a proposed move next door to William and Catherine's palatial apartment, 1A Kensington Palace. The move was turned down. We'll get into what's going on there, but he brings up a time where they had gone around to have drinks at William and Catherine's apartment while they were living in the Notcott. And apparently, as we've heard in other reports, Harry and Meghan were upset by the, quote, disparity between the two households. The royal hierarchy to them seemed imbalanced, end quote. Of course it did. They don't think anything's fair. Why would the future king, who's been a working royal forever, they don't understand why he would have more and deserve more. Ugh, these two. Their heads are they're just so full of themselves. Their ego's so overinflated. I don't know why I continue to be surprised by stories such as this, but I do. Okay, so then they accepted the offer to move to Frogmore Cottage in Windsor. So they were claiming it would give them autonomy. Stories soon it was around here that the stories were emerging to the press that the Sussex household was not a happy place to work. This is where the bullying claims were being alleged. I still need to see those bullying reports. I have not forgotten. I want to see those. Along with complaints about how some staff deemed to be an unacceptable behavior by the Duchess in particular. So, again, he goes into stuff we've talked about, the bullying allegations, not really much insight there. He does point out that the palace tried its hardest to dismiss the rumors that Meghan was difficult to work with. So I'd like to stop and talk about that for 14 hours because, again, if you hear it from Harry and Meghan, they did nothing, the palace did nothing to help them. But it sounds like they did nothing but help them. Even when more and more people were coming forward saying, yeah, it's true, she's horrible. They're both horrible to work with. The palace was trying their best to help out Meghan still. Privately, however, the Duchess said that the palace aides and the royal family were briefing against her and trying to discredit her. So again, it's all about her. She thinks that they're working against her, even though they're trying to help her, as bullying accusations then emerge. And what frustrates me the most is, again, instead of, I know this is way too much self-awareness, but go with me on this. Instead of saying, oh my God, I've been handling this all wrong, whatever, learn from this, change. All these people are saying these things, where there's smoke, there's fire kind of thing. Nah, she thinks everybody's out to get her, and I'm sure started throwing around the ist words that she loves to throw around. But Jobson says it was this swirl of negativity around Meghan that helped Meghan and Harry make up their minds that, they would eventually be leaving the firm. Other interesting fact that Jobson points out is that, as you recall, it was Valentine Lowe that had broken the bullying claims. He had published the story in the Times. Well, Meghan came forward and claims that there were, quote, massive inaccuracies in the story. And so Valentine jumped on Twitter, actually, it sounds like, and replied, how odd. Perhaps she would care to let me know what they were, talking about the inaccuracies. But again, nope, they just like to throw out accusations and don't have any actual, facts to back it up. But Harry, of course, would go on later in the Netflix, whatever that was, to claim that it had been a, quote, dirty game and there's a hierarchy in the family. And so it all ties back to them feeling, inferior. Being inferior should be more than just a feeling. They are inferior. And that was their way of handling that. So that's where we get that claim that she had not been thrown to the wolves, but was being fed to them. It was only a matter of time from there that, of course, they would be quitting Britain for good. So then we go into chapter 18, Grandpa Wales. So the first paragraph goes all into how Charles has a wonderful relationship with William and Catherine's children. They call him Grandpa Wales. I didn't know that. I thought that was super cute. It, of course, stemmed from the time he was Prince of Wales. And they absolutely adore him. And he reads to them, and he likes to do voices, and they go into his special relationship with each of the children and how each of them have a nod to him. And I think that's pretty cool. But the next paragraph says, quote, sadly, due to the sorry current state of his relationship with Harry and Meghan and their decision to live in the USA, Charles has very little to do with his other two grandchildren, Archie and Lilibet, with whom he has only seen fleetingly. Which is kind of funny because it seems like Harry and Meghan only see them fleetingly as well. Hi-oh! Then the book goes into, unfortunately, due to the poor relationship with Harry and they call his wife, I was thinking the Instagram-loving bitch wife, Charles has spent hardly any quality time with his other grandchildren, Archie and his sister, Lilibet, Diana, Mountbatten, Windsor. But those close to him say they are always in his heart. It is one of the reasons he finds the estrangement from Harry so difficult to cope with. I talk about it all the time. I do get frustrated with Charles's handling of things. I know it's got to be hard when it's your child. I don't know. I feel like Harry has disrespected them all so much, and obviously Meghan too, but I'm saying Harry being his son, that I think he should have axed or nixed the invitation to Coronation. So then the story comes out, of course, about them wanting to quit the royals. It was scooped by Dan Wooten, of course, January the 8th, 2020, thereby calling it Megxit, which I kind of love. But Charles was understandably upset and he was concerned. Nothing acceptable had been proposed by the couple And certainly nothing had been agreed to. The Sussexes staked everything on their belief that if Charles refused to back them, then the Queen would. It was a punt too far, and as we saw play out, it'd backfire spectacularly. We get to that summit meeting, of course, involving the Queen, Charles, William. It was 14th of January at Sandringham. Now, this I did not know. Her Majesty was so concerned about privacy that upon taking advice, she had the library where the meeting was to take place swept for bugs. So there's a suggestion that, of course, Meghan should join them via link from Canada, but the Queen ruled that her attendance in any form was, quote, not necessary. So for Harry and Meghan, it was a bitter pill, which I kind of love. They had made their play and they had lost. On the 31st of March, the Sussexes completed their final office engagements before leaving for a new life across the Atlantic. They flew to Canada before making the inevitable move to California. And then on page 239, one of my favorite quotes from the book. Here we go. It's only been 10 months since Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announced that they were leaving the British royal family in search of, quote, privacy. Yet they have never been so much in our faces, sanctimoniously and hypocritically telling us how to live, who to vote for, all while signing a reported $100 million deal with Netflix. Also, Markle is reportedly eyeing a run for president of the United States in 2024. Yes, this formerly unknown C-list actress who couldn't hack the, cosseted existence of a senior royal whose entire adult life has been spent in search of a spotlight she now claims to disdain, thinks that she has the grit, intellect, and real-world experience needed for the top job. I love it. That so perfectly sums up exactly how I believe a lot of us feel about Harry and Meghan. Okay, so this is where we're going to leave it for now. The next part is juicy because that's when they drop the bombshell that they will be interviewed by Oprah. This is, of course, just as the Duke of Edinburgh was being admitted to the hospital in central London. It was basically the end for him. He passed within weeks of that. I just find it interesting now that every book we've read, every interview, everything, every point of view given, doesn't matter if it comes from somebody studying Meghan, from Harry himself, from this writer who's, studying Charles, it just, to me, highlights that these two are just diabolical and continue to make the worst decisions ever and truly have no regard for anybody but themselves. So, anyway, that's why I keep making videos like this. I hope you guys have the best day. Thank you for reading along with me. I cannot wait to keep going with this book. Thank you for being here and supporting the channel. If you want to further support the show, I do encourage you to check out my Patreon. I do a lot of extra content over there, deep dives, lots of fun stuff. I even cover episodes of Sex and the City if that's your jam, but a lot of Harry and Meghan stuff. So check that out. It's patreon.com/Real Housewives Recaps. That's where you can become an executive producer. I'd like to thank my executive producers so much for all the support. So I'm going to read your names, and if you want to become one, check it out on patreon.com. Thank you to Linda and Melissa. Thank you, Paige. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Mr. K. Thank you to Kay. Thank you, Shauna. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you to Aaron and Frank. Thank you to Kristen. Thank you to Ann M. Thank you to Amanda. Thank you, Ann H. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Glynis. Thank you to Karen. Thank you to Dewey. Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Adair Becker. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Annette. Thank you, Barb G. Thank you, Diana LOL. Thank you, Allison B. Thank you to Jean. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Pauline. Thank you, KT. Thank you, Jolene. Thank you, Stromboli. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Loie. Thank you, Lucy H. Thank you, Georgia. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you to Robin's Landing. Thank you to Helen. Thank you to Maura. Thank you to Ashley C. Thank you to Molly. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Sand Squid. Thank you to Rach. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Dee Dee. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Penny. Thank you, Domby. Thank you, Android P. Thank you, Sheena. Thank you, Aaron M. And thank you to Faye. So if you would like your name shouted out and as an executive producer, check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Real Housewives Recaps. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Can't wait to bring you the next part of Spare Us. Take care. Bye-bye.